Welcome to Life by Design, episode 364. Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Richards, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Dr. Crayshaw Judd.
As I say every week, it's been kind of the intros have been kind of like we're just kind of nail them, but I'm happy to be here.
We are creators of Life by Design with many locations worldwide. Each week on the show, we discuss the principles and the practice of Life by Design. Today, we're talking about protein shakes and recovery, and we're saying happy anniversary to you, Crayshaw and Rochelle.
Right, thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, 10 years.
20 years together, man. In 2020, it's going to be, we've known each other for 20 years.
That's crazy. Yeah, 10 years. And, by the time this airs, you'll probably have been to Paris and probably back.
Yep, probably.
Yeah, we'll have a great trip. Well, everybody's looking forward to hearing how your trip is on the next episode. And yeah, you went there for your honeymoon, right?
Yep. So we're doing a repeat.
Nice. And what are you most excited about in terms of going to Paris, aside from obviously going with Rochelle?
Yeah. So this is going to sound hilarious, but the thing that I am the most excited, other than being in Paris, because it's an amazing city, is just the time to do whatever I want without a schedule to have to be somewhere, Right. It's funny, like your kids play, and you can't get them, it's just impossible to get anywhere with children. You have businesses that you have to run. There's deadlines, there's things due. It feels like there's very little time for yourself just to operate on your own schedule. So for the next 7 days, I'm looking forward to doing whatever it is that I want when I want.
Nice. Well, enjoy. You deserve it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So today we're talking about protein shakes and recovery. And I think the real take home, other than the content and some of the science we're going to talk about today, is just this idea that we're willing to look at things that are in opposition to what we've talked about before, or even in opposition to our current beliefs about an area. And now we're not saying that this changes the way we look at things, but again, reality exists. And so what we love about science is science. And some is better than others, but the attempt of science is to measure reality. And that's why we think it's a great area to study. And so this study specifically says protein shakes post-recovery are not helpful. Now, there's some limitations. There was only 30 people. There wasn't a control group. They did some heavy resistance training, but again, without being there, without seeing it, I always question, well, what did they do? Sure. What did that look like? I've talked to enough people to know when they say, oh, I lift weights, but then I actually watch them lift weights. That doesn't count as lifting weights, at least in my book. So there's some challenges. Also, the first group drank a whey protein hydroslate. So you have whey concentrate, whey isolate, whey hydroslate. Hydroslate technically, most people would take it as the best source of whey protein. Then the other ones drank milk, and I believe a third was a flavored carbohydrate drink. So
yep.
No control group. And what they found was with what they were measuring, that there was no benefit. Of course, there was no control, but in the sense there was no difference among the three different ones. So lots to talk about. I think the important thing to me is that, doesn't mean don't eat your protein. I think the results are interesting, and maybe protein isn't as big a factor, but when we dug deeper, looking at other research studies, maybe it's just that the combination of protein, not having carbohydrate with the protein, which would mimic more of a real food meal. Most, not a lot of your meals are just straight up pure protein without anything else in them. So, Crayshaw, what were your thoughts on the study in general?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is, as I read it, because the headline, which actually was a good headline, it talked about what the study actually said, other than some big, dramatic, drawn-out, foregone conclusion that the study didn't even say. So it caught my attention. It was against, what I had previously thought and what I currently believe. So I'm always interested to hear about that, because as you said, I'm not interested in my own biases being correct. I'm very biased. Because I'm a human, but I'm also more concerned about actually getting the results that I want, which is longevity and health. So I read the study, and again, it's interesting. I mean, I would like to read more I'd like to know more about this stuff. But yeah, it sounds like, and even the researchers noticed this, that it's the whole food process, not necessarily one drink after one workout, that tends to be the more important for recovery over time. And I think you noted John Berardi's research, saying that protein plus carbohydrate together. So it looks like the effect that you get from insulin post training is an important one, and that's nothing new. I think that's been looked at before in the past.
Yeah, there's lots of resources I like to go to. Precision Nutrition, I think, is a good resource. Generally, they lean towards what the science is saying in an area. And there's lots of things with precision nutrition that, we might even contradict in terms of what we think. But I think in general, I like going to that resource just to kind of get their thoughts. And in this sense, they're advising a mix of protein and carbohydrates, or just even a real food meal in the post-workout window. I think the old mentality was, you had 20 minutes after you're done your last lift to, cram 50 grams of protein into your body. And,
right.
And so a lot of that came from that. I still think, and my own personal experience is that focusing on protein as the primary target. It's not to say that's where the bulk of my calories are coming from, but I just find that, when I'm focused on consuming protein, this is obviously an N=1 conversation for me. And I'm sure other people have had either similar or differing experiences. But for me, when I focus on protein, I find that visually, I look leaner and fitter. I find that I'm less hungry in general, and I'm able to sustain, whatever it is I'm eating. I can eat a lot less food, that's for sure. And to the point where, we think it's probably one of the top most important components is just to focus on your protein first. I'm not saying just eat protein, but I am saying it's harder to get than, carbohydrates. If you were to go out and grab food, I think it's natural for for a lot of people, especially, I'm going to have a banana, I'm going to grab some fruit, or I'm going for pasta, or, I'm going to have rice or bread. And so we just naturally lean towards carbohydrates. They taste really good. And, you can douse them with lots of things that make them taste even better and sweet if you need to. More carbohydrates. But I think in general, protein, I still feel really strong that if you focus on protein, a gram per pound of body weight, just as a target, down to maybe a gram per kilo, somewhere in that range for most people who are generally active, I think you're going to do well, and you fill in the gaps with the rest. And that's where you can modify it. I think it's funny, this is slightly off topic, but I had a person the other day say to me, I was really, and so they've been to think about this. They've been to Eat by Design probably like 5 times, and they've been working on it, doing stuff. And they said, my friend is doing keto, and I think I'm going to try this keto diet thing. I'm really excited. And I'm like, that's great. And I'm doing their checkup, and I leaned down. I was like, hey, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. You know that keto is just Eat by Design with no carbs, right? And they were like, oh, yeah, I never really thought about it like that. And so, going back just to, not to toot our own horn, but this idea that, real food first, protein, fill in the good fats, carbohydrate appropriateness is what we've always said from day one, is that the amount of carbohydrates is going to be dependent on a lot of different things. And while going super low carb and becoming ketogenic or getting into that process is going to be great for some people, it's not going to be great for other people. So I think that, just staying away from the trends and just sticking to something consistently and making minor modifications as you go, versus I'm all in on, keto. Now I'm all in on plant-based. Now I'm all in on, I think that, I think you got to stick with a template and then make some changes as you go. So I guess long story short, I'm saying don't throw the protein out, make it your base, and then fill in the rest based on what some of your goals are and your personal experience.
Yeah. So, if we're going to have the N=1 conversation, I love everything that you said. My own personal experience, now that I'm going through, 4, 5, 6 opens, recoverability for me has everything to do with training. Like the fitter that I get, the more used to the training load that I acquire, the better. Like my diet hasn't really changed. I'm still eating the same stuff, right? There's less off track days this year than there was last year, but in terms of protein has always been my focus. And now I'm looking at my recoverability this year versus last year because I'm fitter and the training effect is better. I can recover a lot better, so maybe, I'm just throwing it out there as an idea. Maybe there's more important factors other than like your nutrition right after the workout to your recoverability post workout.
Sure. Yeah. I think that if we're looking at recoverability, you got to factor in, sleep. not just that night before or the night after,
Sure.
but your generalized sleep, your sleep cycles. So, to say that you sleep 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 hours. Well, when do you sleep those hours? At what time of day do you sleep those hours? That's probably a factor. Obviously, we'd make the case that the spine and nervous system and just the structure and body in general, the health of the tissues allows for more recoverability, previous injuries, traumas, stress, right? What your stress load is like, or your allostatic load, what that's like, and how that affects recoverability. So you're right. I think, they didn't have a control group in terms of what they were eating, but they also didn't, control for other variables. And I think, that's where you take this with a grain of salt and you say, okay, that's interesting, but I don't think it really makes any major changes to what we're advising. It's not going to make any changes to me. I've never been I shouldn't say I've never. I used to be a big post-workout nutrition, shake guy. I had to get home, get my shake in me, measure it all out. Now, I just eat, and I'm eating good food almost all of the time, other than an occasional off-track meal. I think that's what's more important to me. For me, the most important part is that I'm hitting a daily target generally of protein. And this is what I like about this approach, for me anyway, is that if I hit 160 to 200 grams of protein a day, I find that all I have to do is just measure the protein. And I don't measure it. I just have a general idea. If I have 6 eggs, it's 36 grams of protein. If I have a scoop of protein, it's 25 grams of protein. If I have a chicken breast, it's 40 grams of protein. If I can hit, 160 to 200 grams of protein a day, everything else pretty much falls into place just through eating real food. The gaps essentially get filled, and I like things easy. I don't want to have to think about stuff. I know I'm going to get, 400 or 500 calories in heavy cream. That's already factored in. I've already got my fat coming from there. So, I'm not adding a lot other fat in. I'm not dosing things with extra coconut oil and things like that. But, I think, again, for most people listening in, if you were to just focus on eating good quality protein and focusing on real food, the first 2 steps of Eat by Design, you'd probably be blown away at how your results were over an extended period.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
Nice. Well, don't disagree. Just go on your trip.
Sounds good. See ya.
Okay. Guys, go to the show notes, lifebydesign.com/podcast. Check out today's episode, and you can grab a copy of the free Eat by Design book there. You can also join the free 30-day challenge, put the article in there as well. And everybody wishes you a happy anniversary to you and Rochelle. Wish all the best, and hope you guys have an amazing trip. And thank you, everybody, for joining the drive to 1 million families worldwide living life by design.